Hi, welcome to this episode of our study of data science, and I'm so grateful for you being able to follow every lesson up until this point. Yes, of course, we started functions at some point, and I just stopped talking about the functions because you're not going to really need to write a lot of functions in data analytics. So what I'm going to do here is to go straight with the items, the tools that we need for data analytics. If you want to learn more about functions, how to create functions, modifying it, doing a lot of stuff with functions, you can use the resource I've been sharing for the basics in Python to go about learning more about it, and you can read more about the functions as well. Okay, so yeah, we're going to talk about NumPy here. Using list to I have everything that I've written here. Using list to store data in Python is good, right? We can use list to store data. What happens when you want to perform math calculation with the list? We need something that would allow for mathematical operations over the data collection, and NumPy is what we'll use for this. Or NumPy is what would do this, right? What we mean by that is, suppose I want to check the body mass index (BMI) of every member of your family, or maybe if you have a family and you want to check the BMI. I've created this list, the list of height and the list of weight. Okay, and what I'm going to do, the BMI, the formula for the BMI is given by this. It's equal to the weight, right, divided by height squared. So what we can do is that, suppose that the first person, right, in the family has a height of 1.73 in meters, and then the second person in kilogram has a weight of 65.4. Okay, and if you want to calculate the BMI of this first person, it's supposed to be the weight. So the weight is 65.4 divided by the square of the height, which is 1.73. The square of it is star 2, right? So if I run this, I should be able to see 21.85. So what we want to do is to be able to do this straight away, where Python will just pick each element. It would perform this operation that we want to do. If you want to do this for each one of them, suppose you have a list of 1,000 people, are you going to do it for each component you pick? We must be able to come up with something that will be able to calculate this element wise. So you pick the first list in the height, combine that with the weight, and use this formula to calculate the BMI in that for that particular person. Then go ahead and do same for all of them, right? You want to do it at once without you using this formula I use here for each one of them. Okay, suppose that we just use the list straight away. We have the list weight, then we have the list height. Now I calculate this BMI for each component using this formula, weight over height squared. What happens if I run this formula? If I run it, I have error, that unsupported operand types for this power. The reason is we can't actually use the power on the list type. Okay, so what can we do? Then we're going to resort into using NumPy. NumPy, it's the short name for numeric Python, and this is what will give us the ability to perform calculations over an entire array. So what we call array is, instead of saying list in NumPy, we'll call it array. Okay, or array. And to start using NumPy, we must import it either using this from NumPy import star, or import NumPy as NP. Don't use two of them at the same time. The reason I'm saying is don't write from NumPy import star and then write import NumPy as NP. It doesn't make sense. All right, so just choose one of them and know how to use any of them that you choose. So when you use from NumPy import NP, from NumPy import star, like you have to know how to code, right, using that method. Or you can use import NumPy as NP, which is the standard for everyone, and that's what I'm going to use for this lesson. You can also, of course, read more about how to use this, or maybe I can come up with a way to use this straight away. Okay, so we are going to use the array feature in NumPy to do the previous calculation by changing height and weight to arrays with this. Okay, so what I'm saying is that I'm going to import NumPy as NP, right? So when I'm done, the next thing I'm going to do is to instead of us to just use the list straight away, I'm going to convert these lists into NumPy arrays. Okay, and the way we do that is I'm going to convert the height into height array. That's a different name I'm giving to the height. That in terms of array, I'm going to use height underscore array equals np.array. This np here is coming from the NumPy. Okay, so I have to run that before I use it because Python has to update it and have that stored. Okay, so I can do the same thing for the weight. Okay, and I'm going to just change this one to w weight underscore array, change this one to w as well, right? So we do the same thing. If you want to choose from NumPy import star, then this is how you convert it to array. There's no np in front of it. Okay, but like I said, I'm not going to use that. So I run this and I have these two things, right? So now I want to calculate the BMI, the same formula. I'm going to use the same formula, but this time I'm going to use the np array and then the np array of the height. So now this is a NumPy array. This height underscore array is a NumPy array that contains the height of the family members, right? You can try to print this. Sometimes if you want to really see what you are doing, you can print what this height array look like. Okay, and when you print that, you have the same set of values as the values in the list. The only difference is that in the list there are commas that are separating them. In the array there's no comma, right? If you look at how the members are here, there's no comma separating them. Okay, so I want to calculate the BMI using the same formula, but this time I'm going to use the NumPy arrays. I'm not going to use just the list. Okay, so BMI is given by that, and I'm going to use the weight array. All right, so weight underscore array divided by the square of height. So if I use the NumPy array after converting the height into array, I'm going to use that NumPy array to calculate my BMI. If I run this, I have that. I don't have any error. If I print BMI, if I print the BMI, sorry, I should be able to see element wise. So now it calculates the BMI of every member of the family element wise. So if you look at the first value we got when we decided to calculate for the first one, we got 21.8851, right? And the rest, if you look at the first value for the BMI we printed here, it's the same thing, right? So it means that NumPy gives us the ability to be able to perform math calculations, which is going to be very, very useful in our study of data science, because we're going to perform some statistical operations and we need NumPy. Okay, it's to be able to calculate all these math formulas or math equations or math calculations using the NumPy. That would help us to do that. Okay, it will help us to do that for the entire array or the entire data that you have. You don't have to worry about taking some part of them to work on. Now, another thing you need to know is that NumPy can only contain values of a single type. What it means is that you cannot mix. If you look at the BMI we calculated here, or the weight array and then the height array, they are all values. They are all float. Okay, so you cannot just mix what we call Boolean data type and then string data type and array floats together or whatever. Okay, the array itself is actually a data type. Like the NumPy array is actually a data type of its own. Okay, that comes with NumPy. So here, suppose I want to convert this list 1.0 is and true. These are all the mixture of different data type. 1.0 is a float, is a string, and true is a Boolean data type. If I convert this and print what I have here, you realize that this is a string. The reason is that once I have everything in quotes, it means it's being converted into string. Okay, if you want to see the string that I'm talking about, you can write a type. You can find a type, the data type of although we have NumPy that is an NumPy array, right? But everything you have here has converted into a string because you have 1.0 in quotes, which is how you write string, x in quote and true in quote, right? Of course, if you have a string and you want to, if you do string times 3, you're going to have the string repeated 3 times, right? But in NumPy, if you do the NumPy whatever, so if I do, let me go copy one of the NumPy arrays that we created, which is this. Now if you do that, multiply that by 3, we should be able to have the values in the NumPy array of height array. I mean, the height underscore array is a NumPy array, right? Or it's a NumPy data type. If you do this, we should be able to have all the values in the height array, which was this one, each one of them multiplied by 3. Right? So you realize that this data type called a NumPy comes with a different method. What we knew in the list or in the string data type, where when you multiply a string by 3 times by itself 3 times, it will repeat 3 times, right? But in NumPy, you just pick all the elements in it and then multiply each one of them by 3. Right? So it gives you the ability to do element-wise operation. Now, likewise, if I do height plus height, height initially was defined as a list, if you remember. And if I do height array, which is the NumPy array plus height array again, there will be a difference here. Now you see that the height, which was a list, plus a height which was another list, just take the first part of it is the height list, and the second part is it will still copy the additional elements, or it will just include height again, and then so you give you a different list that comprises of the original height list, and then again you add another another height list as well. Okay, so that is what I was trying to say here, that when you use the NumPy array, it gives you the ability to do a lot of things. Okay, that when the methods that works in list, where when you add 2 lists, you just combine the elements in the list. What I mean by combine is it will just join them and put them together as one list. In NumPy, it will add them, like in this operation, we'll actually add them as additions. Okay, so that's what I have for you in this NumPy lesson. In our next discussion, we'll talk more about NumPy, which I'm saying that is going to be very useful in our data science class. And so stay tuned. All right, see you.